Everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm really glad you're here today. Before we get started, make sure to click that red subscribe button in the down bar below, and it's free, it helps me out, and I really appreciate when you're able to subscribe. So yeah, let's get into the main part of the video. Last video we talked about how God speaks to us in dreams. He speaks to us in our thoughts in the middle of the night. Sometimes he sends us very literal dreams in which in the middle of the dream we know that it's God speaking directly to us with literal words, but sometimes he also sends us very symbolic dreams. Now, what in the world is a symbolic dream? Well, have you ever read the book Animal Farm for school? Animal Farm is a very symbolic book. The author of Animal Farm uses characters, settings, and events that are in a story format to portray something that really did happen in history with the communist government in the Soviet Union. There's several really cool things about reading a symbolic story. A, it's way more interesting than just reading your history book in chapter 10. B, it's fun to figure out who these actual characters are and who they symbolize in real life. And C, you remember the message of the story that much better because you've interacted with the material and you've tried to interpret what the symbols mean. It's the same way with symbolic dreams that God sends to each of us. When you have a symbolic dream, it's way more interesting than just a direct statement. It's cool trying to figure out what all the symbols are, and you remember the message of that dream that much more because you're interacting with the dream. Let's look at one of the symbolic dreams that God sends to the king of Babylon, to Nebuchadnezzar. In the book of Daniel, chapter 2, Nebuchadnezzar has a symbolic dream, but it freaks him out. He has no idea what it means. So Nebuchadnezzar sends for all of the kingdom's magicians, astrologers, and sorcerers to determine the meaning of this dream. But there's a catch. He won't tell them what happened in the dream. I don't know if he just wanted insurance to make sure people weren't making stuff up or what his reasoning was. But I can tell you this, none of those astrologers, magicians, and sorcerers were able to do what he required. So, enter Daniel, a captive Jewish man who lives his life for God. Now, Nebuchadnezzar will not tell Daniel what he dreamed either, but he's still demanding that Daniel interpret all the symbols and explain the meaning to him. So God, in his mighty and awesome power, reveals the king's dream to Daniel in a vision. Daniel sees what the king dreamed. He sees a huge statue of a man, but this statue is made of 5 different materials. The head is made of gold. The shoulders and chest are made of silver. The midsection and thighs are made of bronze. The legs are made of iron, and the feet are made of a mixture of iron and clay. In the dream, he sees hands, not human hands though, and they hew a rock out of the side of a mountain and throw this rock at the statue. The statue breaks into millions of pieces and blows away in the wind, and the rock settles on the ground and becomes a mighty mountain. But God reveals the meaning of all the symbols in this dream to Daniel, and Daniel goes and tells the king, "King, you are a mighty king, and you are symbolized by the head of gold. That's your kingdom. But each successive section of that human statue is another kingdom that will follow after, and they're successively getting weaker and weaker and weaker until you finally get down to the feet where you see a mixture of iron and clay. They're trying to alliance with one another, but they just can't mix, just like iron and clay can't mix. And suddenly, a kingdom that will never pass away, that rock, is thrown by the hands of God, and it destroys all the kingdoms represented by that statue, and the kingdom of God will never ever fail." Now here's what I want to point out about that dream. God sent that symbolic dream to Nebuchadnezzar, but Nebuchadnezzar has no part in knowing God. He has no relationship with God. So when he has that dream, he's terrified and confused. But Daniel did know God. He was living his life for God. And God used Daniel to interpret that symbolic dream to an unbeliever, to the king of Babylon, and to reveal the truth to him that God wanted them to know. I want you to think about your own life. Which of these two characters in the story represents you better? Are you more like Nebuchadnezzar, who doesn't acknowledge that there's a one true living God and who hasn't spent any time building a relationship with God so that when he had that symbolic dream, he was terrified and confused? Or do you want to be like Daniel, who knows God, who's building a relationship with God, who knows the voice of God even in a symbolic dream? I know so far we've covered literal types of dreams from God and symbolic types of dreams from God. And no, not every dream that you have is from God. Sometimes you just dream things because that's what you've been thinking about throughout the day. But now that we know how to recognize that some dreams are from God and they do have a purpose to communicate something with us, next video on Saturday, we're going to cover what to do after you have a dream that you're pretty sure is from God. If this video helped you out, be sure to give it a big thumbs up below, and I will see you guys in a couple days on Saturday. Thanks for watching. Bye. Whatever it is, if anything is keeping you from listening to God in the daytime, God is so awesome and so powerful and so unstoppable in your life that He's going to speak to you in the middle of the night.